So we for sure would be quiet. So.
Yeah. Hello, LEC community. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for another edition of LEC Live. Right before we went live, Elizabeth and I were talking about how my dogs are deciding to have a play fight right now at this exact moment. And she said it's why she took her kids to grandma. So
Yeah.
if you hear some background noise, no one's getting murdered over here. We're so excited to have on my sister, my sorority sister, with Sigma Lambda Gamma, and someone I've known for years. What is it, like maybe 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah. A long time, I feel like.
Yeah. Elizabeth Mounteer with us. Elizabeth, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. As we always start off, we're going to start off just asking you about yourself. Tell us about your background, things you'd like to share about you, and then we'll get into what you do.
Yeah. So my background, so I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a proud daughter of an immigrant. So my dad is from the beautiful southern state of Veracruz, Mexico. And my mom is a second generation Mexican-American woman. I could go on and on, but I don't know. I'm the oldest of six, or the oldest girl of 6 kids. So I'm the second born, but the oldest girl of 6. So big family, lots of cousins and 2. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here because I love the LEC. So yeah.
We're super excited to have you. I mean, me personally, because I know your leadership story. I know like the intricacies and the struggles and the achievements and the feats that you've lived, and so I'm really excited to have you on as well. Tell us about what you do. What's your role in our community right now?
Yeah, so right now, I currently serve with the University of Kansas Gear Up program. So it's a college access program in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. And I'm the lead site coordinator at J.C. Harmon High School. Home of the Hawks. And so the grant cycle that we're in, we currently serve the graduating classes of 2023 and 2024. So if you can't do quick math, that's basically rising 9th and 10th graders. So those are the students that I serve at Harmon right now through college access work.
Nice. Now, is Gear Up where you started with them a couple years ago, and now you've followed them up into high school? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started with Gear Up back in 2018. My first experience with Gear Up was our summer camp. And it was just every day busy from like early morning, till the afternoon, and jam packed. And it was awesome. And so at that time, that summer, my students were going into their 7th and 8th grade year, right? So, and when I first started out, I was with a different cluster of schools. So I was a site coordinator at that time, and I was with Schlegel Cluster. So that at the time was Coronado and West Middle School, which no longer exist, and that feeds into Schlegel High School. But then just this last year, literally like almost a year ago to the day, I became the lead site for Harmon. So I transitioned to Harmon, and that's where I'm at now. So
nice. So those Harmon kids, did they do the program since 6th grade as well?
Yep, they did. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's so cool. I'm sure there's I haven't seen the data, but I'm sure there's data with programs like that. I've heard of several programs that kind of start off when the kids are a little younger and follow them through. And so what do you know about what Gear Up does and how it impacts student achievement?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that's really awesome with the work that we do with Gear Up is in our summer camps, we have some former students that come back and serve as kind of like extra. Their official title is like tutors, but they serve as kind of, almost like camp coordinators, additional pair of hands to help us with any of the activities that we have. So I think that really speaks to just the investment that they have in the program as former students, and then coming back and working with current students, especially from some of their alma mater high schools, which is it's really impactful and exciting. And I before working in Gear Up, I used to only really work with juniors and seniors on the Missouri side in KCPS. And so I used to always tell myself, man, I wish I would have met them when they were in 9th grade, right? Because then I could tell them, hey, you need to take these classes as prerequisites for the things that you want to do, or if they wanted to play a sport like Division 1, Division 2, there's so many requirements for that. And a lot of times students don't know, right? They don't know that the classes that they take, starting as early as even 8th grade and 9th grade, can kind of affect their eligibility to play some sports. So and beyond that too, right? Just the fact that I get to work with students for an extended period of time. And with Gear Up, we actually work with them up until the year after they graduate from high school. So that's exciting too.
That's awesome. I mean, I do know the data on the mentorship side about sticking with kids through college, especially in that first year, and making sure they have all the tools and the strategies to be successful in that first year. I mean, that first year, especially being with the kids we serve being, or the kids you serve being highly first generation students, first generation college students, having that mentorship is really, really important.
Yeah. And it's awesome because I'm first gen too. So having that added perspective, and just knowing you, I know you are too. And we shared that kind of, so it's just nice.
That's funny you mention it, because I was actually going to backtrack and ask about, I know you and I have had so many conversations about the struggles that you and I have had similarly with being first generation high school graduates, first generation college students, first generation master's college, or what do you call that, graduate students, and you being the oldest daughter in a Latinx family, kind of, we talk about that all the time, like being in a Mexican family and being like the oldest daughter. Tell me about that dynamic, and like how you're like responsible kind of for your siblings and their upbringing too. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways, like being the older sibling, at least for me, I just I don't know, you feel like an immense amount of responsibility to want to care for your siblings and to make sure that, to just almost like I used to say like almost like a second mom, right? And and all these things. And then when I actually became a mom, it's something different, right? You realize that it's different when they're not yours and then when they actually are. And yeah, so for me, I became a mom pretty young too. So that kind of contributed to a lot of different perspectives, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're comfortable sharing, I know you became a mom when you were 18, right?
Yeah, 17.
17. What impact did that have on your schooling, on the perceptions maybe of your teachers, of your parents, and how did you, perceive through that, or, be successful through that?
Yeah, so I guess it's important to say, like, so I went to school at Lincoln College Prep, right? So I went to school at Lincoln from 7th grade to 12th grade. So that's where I ended up graduating from. And I found out I was pregnant my junior year. And I really wanted to stay at Lincoln, right? And my mom was able to help advocate for me to be enrolled in the Homebound program. So if you're not familiar with the Homebound program, it's in KCPS, and it's a program that is it could be for students that maybe break their leg or something playing the sport, or I don't know, and they have to be homeschooled. But it can also be for expecting mothers. And I just remember going through that process and trying to enroll in that program wasn't really easy. Like I mean, I
Really?
remember, yeah, like I remember going to like the district office with my mom. We went to Central High School, well, Central Academy now, right? What it's called, but Central High School, and just like being given the runaround, and then finally being enrolled in that program, which was exciting because then that meant that I could finish out at Lincoln. Um, and yeah, it was just it wasn't necessarily easy to do that, but then I did, and was fortunate enough to have the support system of my husband now, but he's my boyfriend at the time. He was going to school at MCC, and so he was taking online classes, night classes. It was his freshman year, and so while I was going to high school, he was watching our son. And so it was just a lot of like coordinating schedules and just constantly like literally, and that's still my life. Like, I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir because it's the same thing for you, but it's like my
Yeah.
whole life is like, my schedule and everything and coordinating things,
Yeah.
right? Until forever.
Yeah. It never stops, and I'm just now gonna be a mom, so I'm just now gonna understand what you mean with like constantly like, okay, the kid has to go here and we have to go here, so like,
Right.
how are we
Yeah.
gonna do this? Yeah.
And I think too, like the fact that I was a new mom, that affected where I decided to go to college, right? And going to a school like Lincoln College Prep, they have a really strong college going culture, which I appreciate. So it was just, not really a matter of if you're going to college, like where, right? So, and I decided to go to UMKC, and that's where I met you.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I went there with the intentions of becoming a journalist, and I'm not a
Well,
journalist,
I didn't know
obviously.
that. I don't think.
You did it?
No.
Oh wow,
So
I
how did
thought
you
you
get?
did.
Well, I have so many questions still, but like, how'd you get into education then? Like, what took you from journalism to education at UMKC?
Yeah, so I don't, maybe I didn't share this with you. I don't know. But anyway, so I started out as a journalism major because I like really admired, like I watched a lot of 2020 and 60 Minutes and just a lot of news shows, and also like Jorge Ramos, and I just like wanted to be able to interview like really cool people, and then like not so cool people too, right? Like these infamous and famous and whatever, and be an do all these investigations. And I did that for 3 years, actually, broadcast journalism at
I
UMKC.
did not know that.
Yeah, and the reason why I did it, it wasn't because like I was like in the newspaper or anything. The big part, I mean, obviously I said the shows that I used to watch, but it was also like going to Science City. And I don't know if you remember the little newscaster, like news desk, where you
Yeah.
could read the teleprompter and
Yeah.
go through that. That was my favorite activity at Science City
Aw.
when I was a kid. So, um, and I just thought, wow, this would be so cool to be able to just tell the news and do all that. But then I got into the actual journalism program, and oh my gosh, like I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful for it. But just learning about like just all the sensationalism, and I took like media ethics course and with Mizzou. So we actually had like a live stream with Mizzou on campus, and then and it was some weird like hybrid course, and just learning about like the ethics behind journalism, and what some people do and the way that they portray some people, and it being very cutthroat and all that, and I just, it wasn't so much that I fell out of love with it, but I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this anymore. um, and being a part of the Avanzando program, which you were also part of, yeah, I was one of the inaugural cohort. Actually, that's how old I am. But
Yeah, I think I was think I was a second.
Yeah. So, but so I was a part of that program, and I remember there was a position that opened up, and the director had sent us an email because we got so many emails, and trying to keep up with them. And I know that I needed to supplement. I knew that I needed to supplement my income, and it was a tutoring position um, for Alta Vista Middle School. And so I took that position, and that was really like the moment that I got bitten by the education bug.
What?
Yeah, and it's a middle school, like it was at the time it was off of Broadway, like near
Uh-huh.
where the Kaufman Center is now.
Uh-huh.
Um, and right in my community where I'm from in the West Side. And it was just awesome. Like I loved that job. I really did. Like I was able to work with students from my community, but I think one of my like favorite experiences from that was just being able to tutor students that spoke Spanish like me in French, because I don't know if I mentioned this, but I took French from 7th grade all the way through college and fell in love with the French language. I just loved the books and the movies and the poems. Like poetry in French was such a big part of my high school experience and like my love of the language. And so at Alta Vista Middle School, being able to tutor Spanish speaking students and to be able to show them the connections between the French language being a Romance language with Spanish, and showing them, that, hey, it's like, it's going to help you to figure this out, right? Oh, bless you.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the first taste of education that I had, and then after that, that's when I decided I think I want to teach French.
I never knew that that was your path to teaching French.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
And then I also like had it in my head. I was like, I'm gonna teach Spanish too, because then I'll be more employable or something, And so I don't know. And that's kind of when, after 3 years of studying journalism, I switched to become a French major at UMKC.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
I never knew that. I never knew that story. That's
yeah,
awesome. I'm glad. I thought it'd be like the interview would be like, oh, everything that I know about you, but like, yes, I'm so glad to learn something.
yeah.
That's and through that whole story, I'm like, so many questions have now popped up in my head again. First of
Hmm.
all, going all the way back to your junior year and how like you've come full circle into like high school and college access. Like you talked about how the homebound program was like difficult to access, and our kids have that experience with a lot of those programs in our districts, right? It's
Yeah.
like I need my parents' help, and some of us don't have that luxury, right? And so, how have you bridged, like the fact that you needed some support in high school and college access to like what you do now?
Yeah, so I definitely think that something that I always think about in the back of my mind is just kind of like, what did I need back then,
Yeah.
right? In some ways, but then to also consider that every student is different, right? Every kid is different, every situation is different, and I can't, bring in my preconceived notions and my biases to think, okay, well, just because you are Latinx just like me means that you have the same experience and the same home life, and that you're also Mexican, right? Because there's this very Mexican centric idea, right, that we know of in the community. But to also realize that because I have the experience of being a teen mom and all that, like for some students that did have that situation that I've worked with, I was able to point them out to some resources, things that they could do. But even beyond that, like scholarships, right? Scholarships that are out there. But yeah, it all comes kind of full circle. But yeah.
Yeah, and even like not only I think about not only with the kiddos who are teen parents, but like, I don't know, like I didn't know, I always get sad about not knowing about the early college academy with KCPS, because I
Mm-hmm.
probably would have stayed in KCPS in high school if I would have known about it.
Yeah.
But like all those little, well, they're not little, like seemingly little like programs and little resources and opportunities
Mm-hmm.
that some of us like don't realize, because my mom didn't have access to the language and didn't have access to
Absolutely.
those opportunities, and I had to drive my education. And so
Yeah.
like the resource that you are for your kids, you know.
Yeah. And I think, and one of the things that I really appreciate about the organization that I'm with now is that it's an organization with a lot of people of color. It's most of us are, like, out of the 15 people, 3 of them are white, right? And I think that that's important, right? It's important to have that representation and these experiences, because it just makes for a richer experience, right? And I think back to all of the experiences that I've had and everybody that contributed to where I'm at today, and I'm so grateful. And yeah, I don't know where I was gonna go with that,
That's awesome.
but yeah,
Yeah. No, I know. I'm like kind of like tearing up, because just like thinking about, I don't, just how hard things have been for you. I mean, and how I mean, just you're remarkable. Seriously, I'm being very honest, because
thank you.
you talked earlier about like helping your kids look past the statistics, and then
Yeah.
looking past the statistics of young parenthood, right? And
Yeah.
how like you were able to perceive through high school and college.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, that it wasn't just me, right? Like,
Yeah,
and
you're right.
that's a big reason why, like, I love, like, the sense of community of the LEC, or just the sense of community that anyone can find with a different organization, whatever it may be. Just because, if I didn't have the resources like Avanzando at
Yeah.
UMKC, then, I don't really think that I would have been an educator, because then or maybe it would have been a different path. I don't know. But being in that program allowed me to become a tutor, which then, led me to where I'm at today. So super grateful for that program.
So you moved. Shout out to Avanzando and to
Yes,
Margie. I think Margie Datweiler had a lot to do. Is that who
absolutely.
like kind of helped you along the way too?
Yeah, absolutely. Margie, at the time, she was the director of the program. And then, yeah, I mean, and even so, I mentioned that I wanted to become a French teacher, right? And
Yeah, I was gonna
obviously,
go into that next.
I'm not a French teacher,
Yeah,
but,
no.
and I'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
So I actually, after I graduated with a bachelor's in French, I started the master's in curriculum and instruction program at UMKC, and I did that for a
That's what you're
year.
doing now, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for foreign language though. But yeah, that's
Right.
what I'm doing now, finishing that up finally. But at that time, I was wanting to be a French teacher. I had to take I think it was like the Mogia and all that, and I passed that, and I was so excited to finally, because I only had 1 year left, right? Like, I was supposed to do my student teaching, and um, and I took it's not the praxis, Matt, but whatever the equivalent to the praxis, the certification class, right? That you need, or the test that you need to take.
Yeah.
And I didn't pass it. And I was so bummed. And I didn't understand, because through my major, I had like a 3.9 GPA. I had taken French from 7th grade all the way through college. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why didn't I pass this? Like, I felt so down on myself. I remember calling my advisor and just, so upset. And she said, it's okay. Like, you can take it again. And I remember thinking, like, that means I have to pay for it again, and I don't know. It was just a lot.
I remember that. What was that? Like
15, I think.
2015?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2015. Yeah. So and then the other reality, another thing was that, yeah, like I could have continued on and gone through that and become a French teacher. But then there was this, to be a student teacher, right? You have to quit your job and have like a full-time, I guess, unpaid internship. And finding that out and realizing that I wasn't going to be able to do that because I had a family was also really upsetting. And so that kind of stopped me from becoming a teacher. Um, and then, so once again, Avanzando is there, right? Like shout out to them. I got an email that said that they were looking for recent college graduates for a program called Missouri College Advising Corps. And it's based out of Mizzou, and they place recent college graduates into a whole bunch of different high schools all across Missouri, from like St. Louis to Kansas City to Southeast Missouri and the Boot Heel and all that. Um, and I was like, you know what? I still want to be in education. Let me just apply for this job and see what happens. So I applied and I got it. So and that's kind of what led that was the starting point of college access work for me.
Yeah. I remember that, and I can't believe I hadn't thought of this before, but your story and your struggles is a lot of what the LEC is trying to combat and remediate. You know what I mean? It's like the fact that we have people in our community that can't do a year of student teaching unpaid.
Yeah.
It's in the book we read in our book study last month. It talked about how a lot of us have, even when we don't have children, have financial responsibilities with our families.
Absolutely.
Either helping our elderly parents or elderly grandparents or nieces and nephews. And so a lot of these teacher preparation programs are difficult for a lot of Latinos to do anyway. So
yeah. And I felt like, I had gotten a scholarship for that test that I told you about that I had failed. And so I was like, and that was a one-time scholarship, right? It was, and at that point I would have had to pay it out of my own pocket, and I couldn't do that either. So I don't know. But yeah, so I'm glad and I'm thankful for the Avanzando program for letting me know about that job opportunity so that I could continue to stay in education.
That's another thing that comes up. We hear it. I'm in the middle of trying to research how do we find a solution for application fees, also like for certification tests and for DESE. DESE, requires $100 fee for certifications, and so it's just a lot of hurdles that are in the way that prevent Latinx people and from jumping into the field. So I'm so glad for the Avanzando program for you as well.
Yeah.
That college access was a different way, avenue for you to come in. So how old was Mark in 2015?
He would have been like 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
Depending on the time of year. Yeah.
So then you took a little bit of break, right? But you're back in school now. Tell me about that. I'm so excited for you.
I know, I am too. So yeah, I took a little bit of a break because the program was to become a teacher, right? And I ended up becoming a college advisor with MCAC, and served with them for 2 years, and then and now, now it's like it's been 5 years since I started that program and started the master's program. And one of the things, so I was calling, UMKC and trying to figure out some, how could I finish this program and tailor it to what I do now. And luckily, they have the program without certification, where you can continue and so I figured, well, you know what? I have to plan all sorts of workshops that have to do with financial literacy and college access, ACT prep, and all of these engaging workshops. So what can I do and how can I transfer that knowledge into my role now? So now I'm pursuing just a general curriculum and instruction master's degree at UMKC. And a big reason, I'm going to tell you right now too, is because credits expire.
Yeah, I just found that out.
Yeah, so that's another reason. Like, all the 21 credits that I had already accumulated, towards
Wait,
my master.
you told me about this.
Did I?
I
No,
think
well, anyway,
so.
I don't know, but yeah, they expire. So I was gonna, so yeah, I needed to finish. I have to finish by summer of next year. So next summer, like no matter what, or else my credits will start to expire. So that's another reason.
See, all these barriers.
Yeah.
I just found, I think you did tell me. And then my sister-in-law had the same issue because she took a chemistry class in 2010 that she needed to enter the nursing school, and they told her it was expired because after a certain amount of time.
Wow.
It's just all these hurdles.
Yeah.
In the system.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I'm so excited that you're in the program, and it sounded like you said some of what you do on a daily basis can translate, because like you're making lesson plans and you're right. So how does that work?
So through
can you use those for your classes?
Yeah, so I mean, it's curriculum instruction, so you learn kind of how to design lessons and all that. And I have to do that anyways in College Access. You have to make all sorts of workshops and modules now, especially being online, right? Like around different topics within College Access. So I mentioned before, like ACT prep, financial literacy, and also not even just for the students, but for the parents as well, right? Because they're a big piece in that, in College Access work.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Now, how are you adapting to the challenges of today? And when I say challenges, you can go anywhere with it because we have plenty of challenges in July 2020. So COVID, the Black Lives Matter movement is really prominent right now, which is it's a great thing. So what has your job shifted like in the last few months?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, just like with teachers, we have to be online. So our program started out by making phone calls to families, just to kind of check in. We heard a lot of less is more, right? And we didn't want to overwhelm them, and just to check in and to share the district hotline number with them. So for a month and a half, really, when this whole thing started. So March all the way through the middle of April, we made phone calls to families just to kind of check in and see how they were doing. We shared resources about, free internet through Spectrum, how to log on to Google Classroom, like all of these different things. And then now we're in our summer camp, which I know I mentioned earlier, like that's one of our busiest times of the year. And we can't be in person, which is unfortunate, but we've still been able to have summer camp just through Zoom. And so we meet with the students, and last month we had different tracks that they could do. So they could do STEM activities, they could do art, and then there was also sports and physical education. And I was a part of the arts camp. And so we mailed supplies to our students that were enrolled, like boxes with canvases and acrylic paint and paper, colored pencils, markers, and all of that. And over Zoom, we had every week last month just different activities. So I think the first week we did origami, which was really fun over Zoom. We had an origami instructor show us how to make, the swans, but then also turtles. So that was exciting. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then And then we just did different things related to art throughout the month, right? So I mentioned canvases, painted. Um, we set them tablecloths so that they could cover their tables. Um,
Aw.
and yeah, we painted together over Zoom. I have a lot of my artwork still, and it's in my daughter's room. um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just awesome. And then this month we're doing youth entrepreneurship camp. Um, and so this first week we're their prereq, I guess, is through UCM. So one of the professors at UCM is teaching our course. It's called using a different lens to understand diversity. And so through that course, we're getting on Zoom from 10 to noon, Monday through Thursday, and talking to students about different things as it relates to diversity and how important that is when you have a business. So we've had discussions about race, about gender, all these different things. And then at the end, the students have to write a diversity statement. So that's what I've been doing this week.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I think it's the first, I'm sure other programs are doing it, but I think it's the first time I've heard of an organization mailing out supplies, and that's such a great solution. I know when we were in school, it was like, how do we access all the kids? I mean, it was literally impossible to access all the kiddos when they don't have the materials at home, you know?
Right. And I will say that, we serve 3,400 students. And one of the things that I wish that we could do is serve all the students. But really, because we're using the Zoom platform and online, we can't have every student participate, and not every student can, even if they wanted to. So that's another reality, is that I wish that, more students could participate. But yeah, it's just another thing.
Do you know how many are engaging, like on a
Um,
weekly or on a daily
I,
basis?
I think the most that we've had in our summer camp this year has been about 50 students.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it takes a lot of dedication too. I will say, like I mentioned, I'm the oldest daughter of 6 kids, right? So I can only imagine being on Zoom with all my siblings, and I get that some of my students, they turn their camera off, and that's okay. I'm just glad that you're here, right? Or they tell me, hey, I'm sorry that I was late, I overslept. I'm like, that's okay. Like, I'm glad that you're here. I really am. And then we get started, and I fill them in, private message them what they missed, and we carry on. So yeah, it's been really awesome.
We have some live comments that I have been really stinking at showing, but
Oh,
Delia, I think Delia said, "Hi Elizabeth, you're amazing and have a wealth of resources for Harmon. Thank you." Thank you, Delia, for tuning in.
yeah, thank
Lauren
you.
said, so glad I tuned in to hear about your experiences, Elizabeth. There's a French flag there, so a shout out to you on that. Delia, when we were talking about French, said, right, Frenchness.
Yes,
Lauren, again, this is so important. Thank you for sharing.
yeah. The
I always,
Frenchness. Yeah, I know you were a Spanish teacher, right? And I Frenchify some Spanish words, and I like Spanish, I don't know,
yeah,
French words too. So it gets to be confusing, but I love it.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love languages. So.
I always get so engaged in the conversations, I forget to look at the live comments. So I love you guys for watching. Um, that's really exciting that you guys have been able to engage some of your kids. I mean, 50 of the 3,400 does really stink. Stink for, like, as an educator. Like, I feel you. Like, you're like,
Yeah,
I want to be able to see them all and engage with them all.
absolutely.
So, your future. What does your future look like? What are you thinking in the next 5 years, 10 years? I know you had Izzy recently, right? I mean, I guess
Hmm.
not so recently now.
Yeah, she's 3 now.
Oh my gosh.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
She's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see, 5 years, it'll be like 2025. I don't know. I mean, my students will have graduated by then, so that'll be really exciting.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Just because, I mean, you know, I'm sure you know because you worked with sixth graders, right? And seeing someone go from sixth grade to graduating from high school, it's just you have so much change, and even for us, right? Like I'm not the same person, awkward, um, and how they are, and you get to know them, and it just I'm so excited for that to see them walk across the stage and figure out what they're going to do after high school and all that.
I used to tell my kids, I have kids now they're getting ready to start 11th grade. And I
Wow.
told them when they were in sixth grade that when they get jobs, they need to let me know where they work so they can give me a discount. Because, but like it is kind of cool seeing them progress. I had a kid message me on Instagram the other day and was like, hey, I graduate next year, next year. And he was like, I'm going to invite you, so you better come. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're graduating.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like when I first started out in college access, like I said, that was 2015. So some of my first set of seniors, some of them have already graduated from college, which is crazy. And it's just so, oh my gosh, like I see some of them on social media, and it makes my heart, like it makes me feel this, there's no words to explain how you feel to see just, knowing and being in college access, right? You read all of their stories, and very personal, and you get to, I mean, you learn how much their parents make and all these things that are just so hard to share. But you have, it's necessary, right, to be able to help them to do what they need to do. But and just to see that they are starting, their careers and all that, it's just so exciting. So
that is so cool.
yeah.
That is so amazing. It's like one of the little talked about things as educators, but like when you start to see them grow up, it's like so bittersweet because you're like, oh my god, I can't believe you're grown up. But then you're like, yay, you're like killing it. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah.
That's awesome. We're wrapping up, which is super sad because this has been such a fun conversation. But what
I feel like we just started.
I know, right? It does.
Right?
It feels like it feels like we're just like, I told you, like, don't be nervous. It's just gonna be us talking.
Yeah.
What tips or advice do you have for like maybe any part of your journey, whether it was, the struggles you had in high school or entering college or educators, like any tips or advice you have for anybody in any of those situations?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the biggest thing is to just listen, right? Like listening to to students, to their parents, to people around you, and to have that to always have the willingness to learn, right? Like I think a lot of times as educators we think that we have it all figured out sometimes, or that hey, I've been here, I know exactly what you're supposed to do, or I don't know, and that we should also be teachable, right? And that we should also learn, and that we also have so much learning to do. I have so much learning to do still, and yeah, that's my biggest advice, is to just be open, and to listen, and to continue learning, and it doesn't stop when you get that degree.
Yeah, I think something that really inspires me about you is that, like, your trajectory has shifted like several times, even more than I knew, and so not feeling discouraged, like when things like journalism, just didn't feel right at one point, and you're like, had to make a shift, and then French didn't fit in, and like just all these changes in trajectory that can be really big blows for people. I mean, I'm sure they were big blows, and I had some of those blows too.
Yeah.
Like persevering through that, like that's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's Oh, and I think, I mean, even now, like we all had to do that with COVID, right? Like it was just a big blow to everybody. And how do what? So I mean, that's another thing. Like, be flexible and give people grace and understand. Yeah,
And we still have no idea what we're doing with like COVID, because it's just really nerve-wracking moving into the new school year. And I know districts and schools are working really hard to make it an easy transition, but we're just all not super sure right now.
I know it's a lot of uncertainty.
Tell us, so just to wrap up, let's like get light. You know, what's it like being a mom? I know you got married in the last few years. Tell us about your kiddos.
Yeah, I mean, my son
So
might be
Mark is
watching
what,
right
10 now?
now. Yeah, he's gonna be 11. Isn't that
Gosh.
crazy? Oh my gosh. I'm just like, oh. But yeah, he'll be starting fifth grade this fall.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's just, it's every day is different and just I'm just trying to enjoy it all before it, because it all goes so quickly, right? Just like with school, just like with anything. So, but yeah, I love them. They keep me on my toes, um, and and I feel like I learn a lot from them, and they don't even realize it, right? Like I learn how to be, really patient and all that. So yeah, love them so much.
Oh, so cute.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I know that you're an amazing mom. You're an amazing family person, and
Thank
I've
you.
learned some from you in this conversation today. So I'm blown away, seriously, by how dedicated you've remained, and I'm really excited about the kids that you have impact on, because I mean, just being there in a college access and high school access kind of role is so like you can't put a price on it, you know. Um, so shout out to Gear Up and the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
KCK for partnering with you guys.
Yeah, and
Um,
MCAC, who gave me my first taste of
yeah.
college access, and I think they're still hiring right now. So if anyone out there knows anyone that is a recent college graduate, like within the last 1 or 2 years, and they're looking to become an educator or to work in college access, definitely apply for Missouri College Advising Corps, especially Latinx, Black and brown people, because we definitely need that to be able to say, like, hey, as a first gen college student, these were my struggles, and these are the places and the questions that you need to ask when you visit a college campus,
Yeah.
and what we needed. So yeah, and if it's not there, then you create it, right? You
Yeah.
create those orgs.
Lately, you and I have been talking some about like Latinx owned businesses and companies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we share. You and I have shared lately.
Yeah.
We've been sharing a lot of like articles, and you've been in our book studies, and so thank you so much for supporting us that way.
Yeah, and
Um,
thank you for you guys being, here, right? Like who knows, maybe if there was the LEC, maybe I would have become a French teacher. I don't know, but I think it's definitely necessary, right, to have that. And I think especially now in the time of COVID-19, where we're not being able to go out and just hang out with everybody like we used to. So having this virtual space is really important.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We've been working hard
Yeah.
and listening to the community and knowing and trying to see what people need. Um, and if you want to jump into French teaching in the future, whatever we can do to support you, or anything else, because obviously you're very capable. I mean, you're here. You've done it, and I'm excited. Do you have to finish your master's before next summer? That just came up. No, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you have to finish it before then?
Yeah,
Oh,
so yeah,
so then you'll be
so
graduating this year.
mhm. Next summer.
Yay!
Yeah,
That's
next
exciting.
year. So yeah,
That's so exciting. Well, congratulations on everything, Elizabeth. Seriously,
thank you.
having you on. I mean, people who are watching and people who will watch this in the future, I'm sure will be really inspired by you, just as I am. Thank you for joining us. Any final thoughts or advice to put out to the world?
Oh man.
I know that like put you on the spot.
Right. Like, I don't know. Wear your mask. No, I'm just kidding. But but I think
But seriously though,
but like seriously though, um but no, but like honestly, like I know there's, the November election coming up, but definitely vote in August as well. That's something that I would encourage you guys to do. Especially if you care about education. Obviously, you should be if you're watching. So,
yeah,
and yeah, definitely that's something that I would say is an action step for
yeah,
sure.
I love it.
Yes, hashtag wear a mask.
We got our moderator, or I don't know what you'd call it in the back. Edgar, hashtag wear a mask. Wear
Right,
a
and
mask,
wear it the
everybody.
right way, like with over your nose, and
Yes. Oh, not just on your lips, and not just like don't take it off to talk. People have been doing that. Like I don't
or
know.
like
Anyway,
touching the part where it's like supposed to like be shielding. I don't know. I don't know.
I know, girl. I know.
Girl,
We
don't get
have
me started.
Joyce who said wonderful webinar. Thank you, Joyce, for joining us. Elizabeth, thank you again for being with us. Please reach out to Elizabeth for if she can support you in any way. Reach out to us if you need anything. And have a good afternoon, Elizabeth, and a good
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right,
All right.
bye.
Bye.